Welcome everyone to our colour artistry tutorial in another deluge of questions. Interestingly, more or less correlating around printing, soft proofing, that aspect of our contemporary colour managed workflows. Investigating print paths. In other words, how we manage colour or control colour through our print paths. Now, looking at various ways, in particular in support of a couple of friends of ours, and dive deep into the analysis I've done. And as you can see from the very first topic, different approaches to the colour control in our contemporary print paths. That's where I want to begin, but very quickly that evolves into other considerations. Topic number 2 and topic number 3 are variations on soft proofing methodology. For example, the componentry, the bits and pieces that have to be combined, evaluated, compared, contrasted, print viewing lights, screen calibration, our adaptation to our calibrated viewing environment, our printer profiles, and all of these variables. And no, I didn't need any of that working at the speed of a dripping tap in the darkroom. So I still prefer to make multiple test strips to base everything on how the result appears as yet another test strip. And in a recent tutorial, we went through our methodology for ganging up multiple test strips on single sheets or rolls of paper, making it simpler because it only relies, at least in his view, on one judgment, the viewing of the finished print. What sort of lighting, though? I'm still not sure about the lighting I'm making these judgments under. So can you go over these distinctions to make sure I'm heading in the right direction? So those first 3 topics, different ways of looking at the same print path from different priorities, but then a perennial question. What happens to our inkjet prints' appearance as they dry? Now, of course, we experience this in the darkroom and we have controls to compensate for the dry down. What happens on matte surface papers? What happens on micro porous, gloss, semi-gloss, luster papers? Do the prints get lighter or darker? Do the highlights change? Do the shadows change? Do the midtones change? What goes on? It's also about how it affects our judgment of the print, which is critical for that judgment based on test strips, but equally critical, images on our screen don't get lighter or darker over time unless we make adjustments. Then to bring all of this together, and we're going to use a print to metal workflow as the case study, what happens when you're having to outsource printing because of scale or medium, printing on metal, for example. What happens if that workflow can't be externally calibrated? If I can't, for example, make a custom profile to characterize it. How do you deal with this? We'll look at LUTs to correct a workflow that we can't profile for a whole range of reasons, in particular for images to be printed on metal through a professional printing service. The sad reply, though, is that in every print-to-metal print path, we've been asked to profile the way we profile your inkjet printers. We haven't been able to because of the software controlling that process. It's a black box built into the system. But that's not the end of the story, because there are many instances of professional print paths like that that are black boxed, locked in place, that we can't use our skills to more accurately characterize so that the file preparation can be even more accurate. So how do you do this? Where we make a lookup table which corrects the output of that black box print path. All we have to do is apply that LUT to our file, which corrects the errors in the outsourced print path that we are unable to control, even if the operator allowed us to have a go at controlling it. And we call these ICC Tweak LUTs, the tweaking an ICC print path that we otherwise don't have access to. All right, now here are our notes on this process. We need a test target. It needs to be tagged, which means it needs to have colorimetric meaning. For example, sRGB, Adobe RGB, whatever the holding space is, and it gives the correct colorimetric meaning to the RGB numbers. We use test charts with many more patches than this, but let's just run this example using 24 patches so you can clearly see what is going on without having to look at a few thousand patches. So we print the target, and it's gone through a particular print path. Relative colorimetric with black point mapping, that is the print path we're evaluating. We then need software and instrumentation to measure the 24 patches. So we end up with a data file We take the LAB numbers we've measured and export it as a 16-bit TIFF image, an RGB image, which can be opened in an application like 3D LUT Creator and the color chart grid tool, and call up the custom reference file, what those numbers in our tagged target actually are, position location grid, and hit the match button and save as a 3D LUT that we can use in Photoshop, Affinity Photo, and so on, to then load that on top of our image that we're sending to our black box print path that we have no other control over, is then a corrected output. Now let me demonstrate in real time. Here's our 24-step color check that's in the resources for this workshop. This is the sRGB encoded version. We typically use much larger targets like this, but for this demonstration, using a 24-step color checker to simplify the process. Now, this has been printed on plain fiber rag using a black box print path we don't have any way of interacting with, so we need to put a LUT in place to correct the errors in that path to obtain a much, much closer match in my print to what my screen predicts should be the case. So using Robin Meyer's magnificent SpectraShop with one of our spectrophotometers, we've measured each of those patches. We use an XY table to do this, but there's only 24 patches here, so you can measure these by hand if needed. We've then exported a custom data set in LAB device-independent numbers of what those colors have been printed as. And here's that exported file. Now, it's really easy. There are 24 sets, and the data format, we have the sample ID, L star lightness, L star A, L star B. The lightness and the A and B values, we do multiple readings of each patch, and then SpectraShop automatically averages them. So we've got this data, what this has turned into. But we can't do much with this because we need to turn this into an image. Now, to do that, this is where we use Danny Pascal's magnificent patch tool. I've got it open, and I'm just going to drag that file, and it's turned those numbers into an image. Now, the image is not correctly orientated, so let's replot that. We've got 6 rows. I need to rotate it clockwise 90 degrees and flip it horizontally as they were printed. Let's go and export that. Here's the conditions, 24 patches. Let's make them a centimeter each, 300 ppi, as an RGB image, and 16 bits to preserve the accuracy in the LAB notation. And I export that, and there's that file. And as we stipulated, it's just 708 pixels by 472 pixels. That's all that's needed because we're not dealing with the drawing composition. We're just dealing with colorimetric data. And that's more than enough pixels to accurately carry all that colorimetric data. Now, I need a tool where I can compare the print with the color checker. Of course, that's where 3D LUT Creator comes to the rescue. Let's use that umbilical cord to Photoshop and ingest our rendered and measured print. Let's get the color chart grid tool. We can't use any of the manufacturer's reference data because it's a synthetic color checker. It's not an actual color checker classic from X-Rite. No. So I need to load my custom reference file. That is the numbers that were printed. So let's load that. Now we've got to tell 3D LUT Creator, just like any profiling application, where north, south, east, and west is. Now we have the measured data and a custom reference file of what that data should be. So the difference between the two will be the error that the black box out of our control print path is doing to my images. I click on the match button. It does those calculations before and after. Before and after. Now let's create and save that LUT in the .cube format back in Photoshop. If this is the image going through that black boxed outsourced print path over which I have no control, and I've done whatever adjustments to make my image look superb on my screen, and maybe you've even managed to get the profile from that outsourced print path that the operator is using to transform your image. So I've turned on that custom proofing, then add a color lookup adjustment layer, and let's find that .cube lookup table, the ICC Tweak I just made, and there is the correction LUT. Now, of course, the image doesn't look right. But it's wrong only in the sense of what I'm seeing on my screen, because the correction LUT is correcting the errors in the black box print path, and the more carefully and more accurately and larger sample sizes that are used, the more accurate the result is. The problem though, and it's a real problem, is the black box outsourced print path has to be a really stable, reliable, repeatable print path, because our LUT is only of any use if it characterizes the condition of the print path that doesn't change over time. But you need to test this and satisfy yourself how stable that process is. And that's just building confidence in what's going on. But to finish off, we've still got this issue of how we make sense of those out-of-gamut colors. Now, we've gone over this quite a few times in recent tutorials, but still there's a lingering question about what's really going on in Photoshop when I'm turning on soft proofing. I'll show you what I mean. At the moment, I've got proofing on. I'm now going to turn on our gamut warning with the default Photoshop preferences. So the gray overlay is out of gamut, but hang on. Let's go back into that proof setup. There's the profile I'm proofing to. Using the perceptual intent, the out-of-gamut colors are being compressed into gamut, not clipped. It's not a colorimetric clipping. I'm mapping the source gamut into the destination gamut perceptually. So there should no longer be any out-of-gamut colors. But there is. Why isn't Photoshop updating from colorimetric, where I expect the colors to be out of gamut? But I changed to perceptual, which is mapping those colors into gamut. Why is there no difference? Of course, our numerical readouts, turning our preview on and off, the numbers aren't changing anywhere in the image. So this is a simulation, a soft proof. I'm not converting the image from a source to a destination. No, the numbers aren't changing. So unfortunately, not only does Photoshop not tell us whether these colors are 1%, 10%, 100% out of gamut, no. So even when we're soft proofing with an accurate printer profile on and off, we're not actually doing that conversion from the source gamut to the destination gamut via a particular set of instructions of rendering intent, like our perceptual compression of the source into the gamut destination. No, not at all. So of course, Photoshop is correct in still showing those colors as being out of gamut. You have to physically, as we've shown you in other tutorials, edit the image to bring those colors back into gamut if they are of significance, meaning they are significantly out of gamut and we're losing something. But hang on, a little bit of revision. Do you remember how we make that judgment? Is it out of gamut because of the hue or the saturation, the intensity or the lightness? No, there's no vector scoping, no way of understanding this within Photoshop itself. But when do we even bother about that? Of course, it's color blobbiness, isn't it? It's where we then turn our proofing off and on while looking at the appearance of those identified out of gamut colors and see if we lose colorimetric distinctions in saturation, brightness, or hue. Suddenly, all of those distinctions are gone, and therefore I really have to do some careful editing of that image before it's printed above and beyond the perceptual compression, but with this beautiful panoramic seascape, turning the proofing on and off. You'll see in the tag up here, the proofing comes on. Let's zoom in a bit where those colors are definitely out of gamut. Monitor profile, printer profile, monitor profile, printer profile, monitor profile. Nope, those colors are not so far out of gamut that we're losing any of these critical distinctions within the file, and therefore the fact that they're out of gamut is of little consequence for the final rendering, and the perceptual intent is all that's needed to guarantee a successful final staging of that image without compromising anything in that image. So there's the lie of the land. All right, hopefully those answers to those topics around our different print paths and our proofing of those print paths, and also the characterization of outsourced black box print paths, hopefully some of those answers are of some use along the way. And as always, we wish you all the best in this incredible adventure of the management of color in our digital workflows. All the best for now. Take care. See you.